Going to dive into the value of study abroad and student mobility with Jonas and Sander. And then we're going to talk about learning experiences. What will you take away from that study abroad experience? So welcome to all the UVA Exchange ambassadors. You all shared photos with us, and we're going to give you a platform to share some of your experiences with us. Now, I want to talk about the value of study abroad. Does anyone recognize these two? Ruben and Pauline Cornelissen? I think that when you talk about the impact of study abroad, you need some time between the experience and now to be able to look back and reflect. So if you look at these examples, Ruben studied medicine, didn't become a doctor, became a documentary maker about China because he spent some time in China as part of his medicine degree. Pauline studied psychology, and she went to Hiroshima. Sounds familiar to you? Yes. Didn't become a psychologist, but became an author and a television maker, and a latest show was about Japan. So you can see that it does impact your life. And that's why we have asked two alumni here, and I want to ask a big round of applause for Jonas Koiban and Sander Brewer. Yes, whatever you prefer, of course. Let's start with Jonas, because you brought a fantastic photo. I'll show it now. This is what I think everybody is aiming for. Whenever I ask students, like, where do you want to go abroad? They say, oh, New York, New York. Yeah. Which is very difficult because we don't have that many spots in New York. No. But this wasn't your first mobility experience, was it?
No, actually, before New York, one time I got rejected for an application to New York. So then I decided to try a summer school in China at the University of Nottingham in Ningbo.
Wow.
Which was in my second year. And I really it was one of the best summers of my student life. So it was an amazing experience.
Ningbo, is that like a small Chinese village?
Well, it's one of these cities that have millions of citizens, but not a lot of people know it. But it's under Shanghai, south of Shanghai. Okay.
So it was a wonderful experience, and then you use that as a stepping stone, maybe, to go to New York?
Yeah, because as I told you, I was rejected the first time for New York, and then I tried this summer school instead, and I had such a great experience meeting new people, experiencing a different culture. Mm-hmm. So it gave me the confidence to apply for the new school in New York, which was in 2013. And then while I was in China, I got the email that I was accepted. So
wow.
Yeah, this was really a great experience.
Smart to have a plan B if you're opting for a popular destination, or even with COVID, it's smart to have a plan B. Yeah. So how long ago was it to go to New York?
This was about 8 years ago now. Yeah.
And if you would think about the value of study abroad, what was that for you?
Well, for me, because honestly, when you look at the application process, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming. You have to have really high grades, a good CV. But because of my experience in China, I was confident enough to try New York. And there I took a lot of writing courses, creative writing and literature. Yeah. And this gave me sort of boost of confidence to really pursue that career. So it can really help you with taking the next step in where you want to go with your professional life.
Wow, because you have this really famous newsletter.
Yeah, I do. It's called the Havermelk Elite. You can subscribe. And I work as a freelance journalist for newspapers and magazines. Yeah. And besides that, I also met some of my best friends during the exchange. So I'm still with a small group of people. I'm still really good friends with them. I have addresses in several countries. So I would really, really recommend to try this. It really is a positive experience. So
thanks, Jonas. Yeah. So next photo is yours, Sander. You went to the opposite side of New York. Can you explain what we see here in the photo?
Yes, hello. I went on a year-long exchange to the Hiroshima University in Japan. And one of the benefits of going for an entire year was that I had a 2-month period in winter where I could travel the entire country. And this was at a snow festival in Sapporo, which is a city in the northern region. And oftentimes at these places they will have school kids who are sent out with a mission to interview tourists to practice their English.
Aw.
And what it comes down to is that if one kid has the courage to approach somebody, all the other kids see like, okay, we can approach that guy because he answers question. So I've spent about 45 minutes interviewing very, very basic questions in English to a bunch of kids, and you can see a couple of them on the background waiting to approach once the previous group is done.
It's a whole
And,
line waiting.
It's these very random experiences which are diverse, kind of endearing in this case as well, and make it very memorable as a whole.
Hey, and a lot of people would probably assume that a year-long exchange is very adventurous, but it didn't stop there. You took an even more adventurous step after your year in Japan.
Yes, my year in Japan led me to took up on a second bachelor's in Korea studies and follow that up with a research master's at the Seoul National University in Korea. And I graduated actually this August, so I've only been back for 2 weeks now. Which
Congratulations with getting your new degree.
thank you. None of that would have ever chosen had it not been for the exchange year.
Yeah.
So in my case, it has a rather immense impact on my life and hopefully now my career choices. So yeah, it's been a great experience all around.
Thanks, Sander. Well, you see, there's a lot of value in study abroad. Hey, you can earn your degree or get a transcript with grades or have an extra line on your resume. Hello, Vivian, this is your photo.
Yes, hello.
I'll sit down again. This is your photo. And what am I looking at? Which campus is this?
So I went to Cape Town, the University of Cape Town, UCT, and they have 3 different campuses, and that's the upper campus. So it's right next to Table Mountain, and it's a really, really pretty campus. And yeah, it's stunning, the landscape.
Now, Vivian, everybody can understand that Cape Town is a very multicultural city and environment. What did you take away from this experience in terms of intercultural competences?
That's a good question. First of all, I took very different courses which were related to politics and gender inequality, gender studies, and sociology about poverty and development. So you learn a lot about how about apartheid, for example, the racial segregation of like the races, basically, and you experience when you're in Cape Town how diverse the people are and how different the life situations are. And I think that was really something I learned about, and yeah, very valuable.
Now, I want to switch over to Kelly. You went to Calgary, and maybe not that many people know what Calgary looks like, but is that an intercultural place?
I would say it's definitely an intercultural place. As you can see in this picture, these are a bunch of the friends I met over there. And they are literally from all over the world. They were mainly exchange students, but you can see there's so many different type of people just in the city. It is a rather big city, so there's always a lot of people around. And in my classes, there were so many different nationalities involved, and it was super interesting to meet all of these cultures in one place.
And what did that teach you to deal with all of these different people and different cultures in a classroom?
It really shows you how different people approach the world, I would say. I think there's kind of a stereotype of Dutch people being a bit direct, but it also teaches you how to communicate properly with other people and not trying to be rude in a way. And also just learning more about their countries, because sometimes you have these ideas about a country, but meeting someone who's actually from there gives you such a different perspective on certain ideas. So that was definitely super interesting.
Maxime, this is your photo.
Yes, it is.
Yes, where was it made?
I took this, it's actually right across the Centre Pompidou in Paris. I went on an exchange in Paris. And I did a lot of photography while I was there, so I thought, let's pick a more mysterious photo.
And how did you grow as a person from your experience in Paris?
Well, I was actually trying to bring across a message through this photo. As you can see in the blue segment of that wall, you see knowledge plus action equals power. It's kind of hidden, but that message really got to me because I had some difficulties while I was there with my social life, and I really had some low times there, but in the end, I didn't let them get to me, and I found ways to actually get over that, and that really felt like an empowerment. So actually, by learning a lot about myself in that way, it was really, yeah, life changing.
Very good. Well, we hear that word quite a lot. And I want to share a photo of Iris also, which is also a stunning photo. And we see this fantastic rainbow in there. But I think you also, what Maxime shared with us as well, sometimes it's not always fun and games.
Yeah.
So did you encounter that as well? Were there some challenging times studying there?
Yeah, I would say I was super used to the Dutch way of living, so everything had to be very fast, very planned. And then I got there, and the mentality and culture is super different. And people are just like, for example, when you're doing groceries, you have to wait for 30 minutes, and it's just fine. But I really had to get used to that. And in the beginning, that was quite stressful for me. Not to be stressed was stressful. But then after some time, I just like acknowledged it, and then I turned something in my mind, and then I don't know, I had like a spontaneous trip. For example, this was Iguazu, like super amazing falls in Argentina and Brazil. I just changed something in my mind. I was like, no, you're also going to be spontaneous and flexible and go with the flow, and that made my experience over there so much better.
It's really fun that you're saying that, Kelly, because for Iris, because everyone says like, oh, I want to be more flexible, I want to be resilient, but you only learn that by overcoming challenges. And so breaking that comfort zone is not always that easy. So thanks for sharing that. I want to switch over to Carla. I'll stand up a bit because you're all the way over there. Carla, this is your photo. Can you explain where it was made?
The picture was made in Madrid. I went on a 1-year Erasmus exchange to Alcalá de Henares, which is just outside of Madrid. And I lived there in a house with a lot of people from all over the world, from Argentina, Germany, Romania, Armenia, Mexico. And I learned there that people from other places around the world experience problems we don't have here in the Netherlands or Europe. And that showed me that we need to take action or talk about things. And eventually I went with some roommates to the Women's March on the 8th of March in Madrid. And that's the picture.
So it woke up a little activist in you, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, because I always thought of myself as being an open-minded person, but never had been in contact with persons or problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that year in Spain really showed me new things.
Thanks for sharing that, Carla. Switching over to Emma, you had a kind of a similar photo, but from the opposite side of the world.
Yes, that's right.
Can you explain where was this made?
So I went on exchange to Australia, to the University of Sydney. And this photo shows a protest organized by Extinction Rebellion, the international environmental movement, to create awareness about climate change. And the kickoff was actually organized on campus. So the building in the back is one of the oldest buildings of the university.
Yeah.
Really pretty. But a lot of students were gathering, and including myself, to join the protest. So hundreds of people were blocking the streets in the city to call for more government action around climate change.
And did it also change your perspective when you came back?
Yes, it did. But because in addition to this protest, I traveled along the East Coast in the final weeks of my exchange. And that's also when the bushfires started to spread across the country. So that actually came quite close, as I could see the outcome of climate change and the effects from up close, because all the forests were burned down and animals were killed. So that was definitely something that impacted my experience during the study abroad.
Yeah, it can be frightening to be there so up close, but also really impactful when you really experience that. Thank you, Emma, for sharing. Knowing that you had this experience in traveling back, is there something that you said, like, oh, I wish I would have done that. I missed out on that opportunity. I should have done that while I was there. Was there a missed opportunity that you missed out on?
So after 2.5 months, also Corona happened, and Cape Town went on a very strict lockdown, and it was a little bit later than here in the Netherlands. But I was so busy with university, and they require a lot from you, but it's very, you learn a lot at university. But at the end of my exchange, I planned to go traveling a little bit more, and some of my friends also wanted to do a road trip together, so we had that plan, so this didn't happen anymore. So I think it's always good to keep in mind that something like this could happen, so always see what you want to include all in your exchange, that you take or focus on studying, but also try to get to know the people and travel, and so think about that as well.